Hello everyone, welcome to another Green Dragon Gaming Club. Without us, they never feel like winners. Without them, we couldn't look so good. This is another Pretty Boy Bat Rep, and this is Game 3 of Brawler's Bash. I've got my Orcs and Goblins playing against Once Bitten and his Kingdom of Aquitaine. So, I kind of laughed looking at the score sheet. I was looking forward to getting a rematch against him, and figured this would be a fun game. And hopefully build some momentum. I felt pretty good about this matchup. Orcs and Goblins have, in my mind at least, always had an advantage against Kingdom of Aquitaine. They just have a lot of stuff that can deal with armor. So we'll get into it and see what happens. So this is the list I've been using. If you've been following the other battle reports, you've probably seen it already. Feel free to pause it. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. So I just want to start off by saying that I was having some difficulty with my phone this game. I do fix it for the other two games, but there will be less pictures than normal. I'll kind of have to just go through step by step and explain what happened. We were playing on a really interesting board. It's on black felt, obviously, and then we have three just giant pieces of impassable terrain, a couple hills, and then like a water feature. It was really unique. A lot of people were kind of complaining about it, but I don't know. It's a little wonky, but I think it's an interesting challenge for both players. Anyway, this is how deployment looks. So, going over his list on this side, he's got a big unit of Knights Aspirant running 5 wide to take advantage of all their attacks and monstrous support. And he's got the banner that gives him impact hits with his horses. And then he's got a big unit of peasants. They have bows and they have stakes. They've got the Grail Reliquary and they have flaming shots. And he's got a trebuchet behind him. In the middle, he has just a huge unit of questing knights with his BSB in it and his mage of divination. He's got another trebuchet. And then I'll just point out in this picture, I vanguarded Pac-Man up because my mission for this game was to secure table quarters. I felt that I had a decent chance of doing it this game, and one of the in-game gimmicks that I could do is I could give a solo character a core unit vanguard, so I did it with him. Put some pressure early on. This was counter thrust, so we had to go back and forth one by one, which I was fine with, and it was just a straight roll-off, so we don't know who's going to get to go first. So, anyway, that's how it looks. And, yeah, you can see a little bit more of the board. We have the Sphinx thing, that's impassable terrain in the middle, and then we've got another thing. It looks like... I think those are like bookends. They just put them together, but fits the whole Egyptian thing. And then you see that lava river. So the center of his deployment, to the right of his questing knights, you can see he's got a huge unit of Pegasus knights. He's got 6 of them. And then he has his general on a Pegasus running around somewhere. I think he might actually be joined to the unit. And then he has another Duke that's combat kitted out, and he's on a Pegasus as well. And behind them is just another big block of peasants with bows, and they have the braziers, so they have flaming shots and the stakes. So not really a big army. He's got his points pretty packed into a few units. And then you can see how I kind of deploy it. I'm going to try to use the terrain to the best of my ability to keep him funneled, to keep him kind of pushed back to the corner. I have so many units. I'm going to make it very hard for him to try and get behind me with those peg knights and just move forward. And the thing, at least I thought it was smart, was I put the spider in front of my trolls so they could kind of move up, and I was thinking they would get cover from his bow shots, but he informed me that volley fire ignores intervening models, so my heart was in the right place, but the execution wasn't the best. Oh well, what are you going to do? Anyway, I put my feral orcs on this side. I put my cave goblins. Got a Nash wrecking team. I got the giant and the goblin chariots coming over on the flank, and I just think there's too much there for him to deal with. At least that's my hope. Alright, so he wins the roll-off to get first turn, and he retreats. He moves his Peg Knights behind the impassable terrain, and I understand it. I think he kind of saw what I did, and there's just nowhere for him to go. And I have 30 bow shots with goblins, I've got pyromancy, I've got orcs with crossbows. I'm just going to lay into that unit as much as possible. So he might as well give himself cover. And then over here, he kind of just moves forward a little bit with his questing knights. He reforms with his peasants to optimize his shots. And because I vanguarded Pac-Man up, he just reforms with his knights aspirant. So I'm in his front arc, and he just backs up a little bit. And yeah, his characters are joined to that Peg Knight unit. So now this is my turn. And again, I was having trouble with my phone, so these pictures are a little bit out of order. I'll just walk you through it. There was a very large unit of peasants there with bows. My splatterer went off and took out, I think, 13 of them. I just rolled really well. Oh my gosh, poor one's been... He was kind of having a rough day up until this point, at least from what he was telling me. Just his dice rolling was awful, and I kept reassuring him. I'm like, no, don't worry. I mean, if you've been rolling bad, that means you're due for good luck against me. And I think he was rather skeptical getting into this game because my dice were hot and his just weren't at all. So yeah, I take out 13 peasants there, and wouldn't you know it, they break and run off the table. Just cowards. Oh, so good start for me, not a good start for him. So now this is his turn. Now he was goading me. I needed a 10-inch charge with Pac-Man to make it into his nice aspirant. And I fell for it. I was just like, yeah, what the heck. It's not an unreasonable charge, and if I go in, I should win combat. Yeah, he'll be steadfast, but then I have time to bring other stuff around. I just shouldn't have done it. I was having some fun. I was like, let's send him in there and see what happens. It's Brawlers. My thinking at the time was if I fail, you can see I position my spider in a way that if he countercharges, I could flank charge him my turn, or he could pivot and face, but I'll still get a charge off. But I just wasn't thinking that because he's frenzied when he charges, he's just gonna pursue off the board. So I'm not gonna get a counter charge. What will be good though is that yeah, he takes out Pac-Man, but he'll be out of the game for a little while at least, and when he comes back on, I can just run that wrecking team right through his unit. So not all is lost, but I think the smarter play would have been not to charge him, maybe just move back with Pac-Man and kind of get into a stare down and just say, hey, if you want to take that huge unit of knights and have him face Pac-Man all game, I'll live with that. As you can see with my Grotlings, I move them up to put his questing knights in kind of a tough position where at the time, like if he charged the Grotlings, he's kind of really funneled with that piece of impassable terrain, and I could get all sorts of counter charges. And in his turn, he just kind of shifts things around. He moves his general over to this side. His general is just an absolute beatstick in combat, and I think he's doing it because he can see the trolls and the spider coming over, and his peasants, and even his knights probably can't deal with that on their own. And over here, his other Duke decides to move out of the Peg Knight unit. He knows he needs to start making moves. He can't be too cagey, as he put it, and just hide back there. You got to get points, so he's going to try to get over into my flank, which is a good idea. And yeah, he kills Pac-Man, and because of his frenzy, when he charges, he has to overrun off the board. And then it's my turn, Orcs and Goblins. And my spider now doesn't have really a lot of charge options. It's just the peasants. So I go in. I'm not worried about the peasants per se, but um, I think I could have done this a little differently. I put the spider over here because I thought I could chaff up the questing knights with the grotlings, um, which his wheel is just too small. I wouldn't be able to do it. Um, so he could really charge my spider if he wanted to, but I really just should have moved the spider over and gone after the Grail Reliquary and just said, whatever, if you want to charge your general into the flank or if you want to charge the questing knights into the flank, I don't care. Because my trolls are sitting right there. And so, yeah, he might kill my spider, but then my trolls are going to eat up whatever's there, whether it be his general or his questing knights. So, I really just should have moved the spider over and concentrated on that. Um, I just tried to get a little cute with it and didn't really pan out. But in any case, that's what happened. Over here, I rearrange my chariots so they're facing his lone duke over there, and they can kind of sit back, and they've got enough movement that I can still use them later on if I need to. And because his characters are gone from that Peg Knight unit, I'm not really worried about them with my giant. I start to really push forward with my infantry blocks on the giant. So my ferals and my giant can see the flank of his questing knights right now, which is bad. And my giant can also see the front of his Peg Knights. I used the arc to make sure that they were in his front. If they want to charge him in, I mean, he's at full strength. He's not going to do enough wounds to kill me. I cause terror, and then I'm going to get to go and probably do some damage myself. In any case, I'm leadership 10. And if he charges with that unit, he has so much in that unit, he's going to have to charge him in a way that my Feral Orcs will be able to countercharge, and I'll just take out the unit. So I'm really not worried. His character, his Duke on the Pegasus, is too far away. I mean, he can charge, but it's a long charge for him to get into the flank of the Giant, so I'm not worried about it. We go into combat. Yeah, I eat a bunch of the peasants. He surprisingly does a few wounds back to me. Was able to slip some through, so that was kind of a shock, but it's okay. We stick there, and he's stubborn, so he doesn't care. And then he countercharges. So he decides to take out the chaff, the questing knights, which I'm perfectly fine with. He's still not in a great spot with that unit of knights. The grotlings were gonna just kind of trap him in, so figures at least get rid of them. And then his general's going into the flank of the spider, which is very bad for my spider. I can just only hope he doesn't quite do enough or he whiffs. His dice have been bad enough that I was convinced it could happen. His Knights Aspirant come back on the table, right behind that National Wrecking Team. And yeah, he just keeps moving those Peg Knights back. He really has no idea what to do with them. I mean, this is a new list for him. He really didn't have a lot of practice with it. And it's just a very bulky unit. So he just keeps moving him back, and he's putting pressure on with his Duke, his lone Duke over there. But I'm not really worried at this point. His trebuchets finally hit something. They kill off, it looks like, 8 of my orcs, which is not cool. And another trebuchet, to be honest, I don't remember if it was magic or a trebuchet, but he does 4 wounds to my giant, which is not great either, but he's still standing at least. And so this is after combat. The questing knights kill the grotlings, not surprisingly. And then they reform like this, and yeah, I mean, you could just see they're in a really tight spot. They got impassable terrain directly in front of them. And he's trying to keep everything in his front, but he just can't. He can keep my trolls in his front. He keep my ferals in his front, but my giant's still going to be in his flank, no matter what. And yeah, his general absolutely slaughters my spider. He took so much pleasure in that. Oh, man. And then he just reforms to face the trolls. And you know what? I'll trade my spider for his general. I think that's a good trade. So now I've got options. And if you're looking at the board right now, for me, I'm just thinking, you know, this game is pretty much over. My trolls don't need much. They're gonna charge into his general. I'm gonna vomit on him and probably kill him, if not break him and hopefully run him down. I'm gonna charge my BSB into his peasants. That way, the peasants are held up. It was hard to see how I'd have to maximize. I was thinking either my trolls, after killing his general, could overrun into the peasants and try to take them out, or if nothing else, even if my BSB blocks them from overrunning, that's fine. I'll just reform with the trolls to face either the questing knights or the knights aspirant, and then the following turn do something with that. And the BSB would be holding up the peasants so they don't charge my trolls in the flank. And then on the right side, the other side of the impassable terrain, I'm going to call it the Wa, so I'm going to get Swift Stride. My Feral Orcs are going to charge the front of that unit. I can't get them all in. I don't really care about that, though. I'm just going to clip the edge and get the ranks in there and get some impact hits, a couple high-strength attacks. And then the Giant's going to go into the flank. He's going to be going last because he has great weapons. And my Giant causes terror, causes fear. He's going to go. He'll probably do a decent amount of damage. And I think I just break that unit and run them down. Especially with the Orcs having Swift Stride. And then at that point, yeah, his Peg Knights could probably take out my Giant, but then he's got Feral Orcs running around his backfield to either take out his Trebuchets or his Peasants. I just don't see, I kind of just see the writing on the wall at this point. So this was hilarious. I call it the Wa, and I'm declaring charges, and I declare my charge with the BSB and into the peasants. So he says I'm going to stand and shoot. He does a couple wounds. I fail a 1-up armor save, and then I said, oh, well, I have the lucky charm. I'm going to re-roll it. And I roll a 1. Oh, we were both laughing about that. Like, isn't it called the lucky charm? So, yeah, that's not a good omen to start the turn. So his Knight's Aspirant had come on last turn, and my National Wrecking Team was sitting right in front of them. So ideally what I would have liked to do is kept this in front of them if possible, but because I was only about an inch away, if I move side to side, I'll just bounce an inch off the table edge, and I won't be in front of him. He'll be able to just kind of wheel past and go forward. Or if I try to go forward, I could go forward too far and he'll just wheel past. So I just said screw it, and I sent it through. And I kill half the unit, and then he fails his panic test and runs. Oh, man. Oh, just more things going my way. But I'll take it. National Wrecking Teams are scary for Knights, so I understand. And then this happens. So the BSB makes it in no problem. The trolls get in. That's great. Left side's looking good. And then my Feral Orcs and my Giant fail. That really screws me over. My Ferals needed a 7 on Swift Stride to make that charge. That's not a far charge at all. And the Giant needed a 5 to hit their flank, and they both fail. Oh my gosh. That absolutely kills me. It's just easy points that I'm not getting, and he's like absolutely trapped, and it just really grinds my gears. And now, my Giant, because he failed to charge, his Lone Duke over there is going to be able to charge him easily. The Peg Knights can charge them easily, and now he's got options. So, not thrilled about that, but at least things on the left side are doing okay. Yeah, so that's just how it looks. My goblins are just trying to fill in the gap and get in range for pyromancy spells. Okay, so then I move my general over to get in leadership range. This is after combat. My BSB charges in. I either win or we just tie. I do a couple wounds and he's got some static combat res, but we stick. The trolls do what the trolls do, and they vomit, and they kill his general in probably the most horrible way imaginable. I would not want to die due to troll vomit. You know, it's weird. KOE characters are so terrifying when they charge, but if you can charge them, they're really not that great. I mean, they're durable because they got a good armor save and they usually have a ward save, but yeah, they're just not. The damage output is all lost. And luckily for me, I'm just getting 6 hits. They're strength 5. They don't allow armor saves, and was able to do it. Now the issue was, I can't remember what happened, but I either got distracted or excited about something else, and I just forgot to reform the trolls. It was just like something really silly. Um, Especially with the Knight's Aspirant fleeing, you know, I just would have faced them towards the Knight's Aspirant, and he probably would have rallied on his turn, and then my turn I just charged him and take him out. Would have been a good way to deal with them, and I just totally spaced. And I remembered at the beginning of his turn, and I was just like, oh, I'm such an idiot, I forgot to reform. And Once Bitten was really nice and said, you know what, it's, you know, a casual enough game, why don't you just go ahead and reform them? And I said, no, no, no. You know, I think my pride, my pride got in the way, and also I think it's just the right thing to do. We're playing a tournament game. I forgot. You know, it didn't impede anything in his turn, but I just feel like, you know, if I forgot, I forgot. So I left him there, and I just figured, you know what, on my turn, I'll just reform them to face the Knight's Aspirant if they rally, and you know that half that unit's still gone. If he wants to charge cave trolls in the front, I think I'm gonna win that fight. It's fine. So that's how that went. This is his turn. So he rallies with the Knight's Aspirant, and he sees my general staring down his questing knights. So he faces the questing knights towards my general, and he can afford to do so because he charges over here. And he does just what I thought he would do because my guys are dumb and they're slow. The Duke guy goes in the flank of the giant. The pegs charge the front. You know, that was, my giant's dead no matter what. And then his Duke can definitely overrun into the flank of my feral orcs. He could clip the unit with his peg knights if he wanted to. I'm not sure if that's really what he wants though. His Duke did take a wound from me during my shooting phase. It just didn't have the picture. A Git launcher hit him, but I threw as much as I could at him. But this guy's got a 1-up armor save that he can re-roll, and then he's a ward save on top of it. So only the Git launchers managed to get through and actually hurt him. And yeah, so he kills Ned, my giant, who completely deserved it after failing that very easy charge. He does the smart thing and just has the Duke go into the flank. Doesn't want to give me extra combat res. He reforms with his Peg Knights. Now you can notice his Peg Knights are a little bit smaller. It's just because I've been trying to hammer them all game with shooting and magic because it's a lot of points. And they're honestly the scariest unit he has in his army because they're so maneuverable. If I can't keep them in front of me, they can absolutely devastate my army. So I've just been trying my best to whittle them down. And at the same time, it's sort of playing to his advantage somewhat because it's making them of a more manageable size, but I just don't know what else to do because if he doesn't want to get into combat with those guys, he just won't. So I have to shoot him. Anyway, so that's how things look there. Now this is my turn. So remember that that idea I had about facing the trolls towards the Knight's Aspirant? Now don't worry, I didn't forget. No, it was worse. My trolls failed Leadership 9 for their stupidity twice. They failed it twice. They can't go anywhere. They're, I think they were already like an inch away from my BSB, so they can't stumble forward, so they just sit there, presenting their flank to the Knight's Aspirant. To make matters worse, my general decides to fail his leadership check twice also for frenzy and charges the front of those questing knights. Oh my god. I think I was just starting to roll really poorly out of empathy for Once Bitten. I don't know. I really don't know what was going on, but my army was not listening to me at all, and it's bad. It's so bad. So my general goes in there, yeah, he's going to challenge me out, yeah, I'll kill his champ, he's going to be steadfast. So unless he rolls really poorly, I'm just going to get held up there. And that's not a good situation to be in, especially not for the long term. So over here, I mean, my orcs will be steadfast this round, but they're only leadership 7. I don't know if my general's quite close enough. And I decide I'm going to throw the chariots into the flank of this guy. I know it's still really tough to get through his armor, but at least I'm getting charge flank. If he whiffs, I'll have a decent amount of combat res, and maybe I can just break him on static. I can't shoot at him anyway, so what else? What else can I do? And the good thing is if he breaks, I might be able to get my chariots into his peg knights. Or actually, no, that wouldn't have it. I might be able to get my feral orcs into his peg knights, which would be perfect. In the meantime, my goblins just kind of shimmy up a little bit. I'm going to try to release Mad Gits and hit those peg knights. I'm going to shoot at them. I'm going to hit them with magic and just try to whittle them down as best I can. Because now things are starting to go downhill for me. And I do a decent job, but not enough. One of the Mad Gits hits, one of them doesn't. I'm throwing everything I can at them. I managed to kill 2 of them, but he's still got 2 left. He passes his panic check. And I lose combat. Yeah, so I did the math, and, you know, I could have just challenged him out, but we would have just tied combat, assuming he kills my champion with the max amount of wounds. So it's better to try to get the impact hits and see if I could slip a wound or 2 through. He only has 2 wounds left. I did nothing. He made all of his saves, and his guy did not whiff at all. He went to town. He killed a whole chariot off, and I think the Pegasus killed a couple orcs. It was just rough. So I lose combat. The wolf chariots break. Luckily, my feral orcs hold on their steadfast, but I fail my check to reform, so they're still stuck in the flank. In the combat with my general, he challenges like he should, and I whiff. I mean, I kill him, but I only do 1 wound, so I don't even win combat. He actually won by a couple, I think, and I luckily stayed on like a leadership 7 with the reroll, but that was disappointing as well. I was hoping to at least make him have to roll dice, but didn't work out. Yep, and now this happens. Things are going downhill really quick. So he charges the flank of the trolls. Of course, I have to hold. I'm immune to psych. They're stupid. And basically, I'm just going to tell you what happens because I don't have pictures for it. So he wins the combat with the trolls by a lot. I might do a wound back to him. I don't remember. But they won by a lot. I break. But the way he's lined up, they're not breaking at a wonky angle or anything. So he chases them. He catches them. And he hits my BSB in the flank, who's in combat already with the peasants. Slaughters my BSB. He does the exact 2 wounds he needs to kill him. And then he's perfectly in line to then hit my general in the flank. And guess what? He kills my general also. I don't know if he kills him or if I break and he just chases him down, but it was like the worst game of dominoes ever. Just like a third of my army dead from that stupid unit and my trolls failing their stupidity check. Oh my gosh. Alright, this is painful. I'm sorry. This is so painful. Oh, and then you can see on the other side of the Sphinx, he charges his peg knights in to my goblins. And I take it, you know, there's nowhere for me to go. I'm hoping steadfast will be enough. I'm in my general's leadership range. Of course, my general dies, so that goes out the window. And I say, I'm going to throw nets on you. And then I roll a 1, and I throw nets on myself. So now I'm strength 2. He's at full strength. I think he landed every single hit and managed to kill a goblin. It was, oh, and I do nothing back, of course. I'm just relying purely on steadfast. At leadership, horrible. They break. He runs me down. So that unit's dead. I think I challenge out with my feral orcs. but he slaughters the guy in combat. I lose because he does like 4 wounds and then he has a flank, and I have a couple ranks and a banner. So I lose. I'm steadfast on 7 and I fail, and he runs me down. So on this turn, he literally kills basically my whole army, my entire army, because I failed a couple charges, and then I failed an easy stupidity check with my trolls. And yeah, just it went from what I thought would be a massacre win to me to me getting massacred. Oh my gosh, and the carnage continues. So this dick riding around on this Pegasus, I needed to kill him, and my scrap wagon was nearby, so I just said, screw it, let's throw him in there. You know, it'll take 3 away from his armor save, I'm getting 2d6 impact hits, and I do nothing. He slaughters the chariot, so that was great. I do get my revenge, however. We're wrapping things up. He's just moving stuff around. I have my artillery, basically, and my orcs with crossbows. And the Git launchers managed to take this Duke down, so that was nice. That's some points at least. His 2 remaining Pagan Knights charge one of my Git launchers, picking up points there. He's just marching over here. It's getting to the end of the game. So this is the last shot of the game. I'm just trying to pick up whatever points I can. I decided to shoot my catapult at this questing knights unit, and once bitten, the nice guy that he is, I think he felt empathy for me at this point, and he was like, well, you can actually pick out one of my characters. And I said, I can? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I thought you have 5 knights left. And he goes, oh no, one of them's a BSB and that's my caster. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's true. So there was like no karma in this game. So he's being nice to me, and then in return I splatter his expensive mage with a rock. And before, this is just proof karma doesn't exist. Before, I could have taken up on his offer to reform my trolls, and I get repaid for my kindness by them failing stupidity. So that's just how it goes. At least I get those points at the end, but this is a KOE victory, without a doubt. He got between 7,200 and 7,300, I believe. I did have points left on the board, not much. I had a Nasher Wrecking Team, of all things, alive. I had a couple War Machines and my Orcs left, but he got a bunch of, the additional victory points. He got whatever mission he was trying to accomplish. I got 2,700 points, and basically that's just from killing his characters. I killed his general, the other duke, his mage, and that's really the bulk of the points. I got half points for a trebuchet. I killed his unit of peasant archers, which isn't that big of a deal, and I did manage to get half points for his questing knights just because it was such a large unit and I whittled them down enough. I couldn't even get the points for the peg knights, not even half points, because there were 6 of them and he had 2 left. So yeah, just was really rough. I felt like I worked so hard to try to get those points, and it just did not pay off at all. It was like, I thought I played a pretty good game for the most part. Obviously I made some mistakes, but I played the terrain, I was in good position, and just could not capitalize the turn that I needed to. Wow, what a swingy game. Getting into the MVPs, I think it's pretty obvious. The Knight's Aspirant. I mean, if you looked up the definition of an MVP, it would be a picture of them. I've never been in a game. This was such a weird game. I've never been in a game where it has swung that drastically in one turn. With one unit. I mean, this one unit took out my general, my BSB, and my trolls. It was just such a total 360. Wow. It's still hard to believe. For me, my artillery was actually pretty good this game. They were pretty consistent, and I was able to take out his Duke on the Pegasus and his Mage. And the Splatterer also killed a bunch of those peasants and made them flee off the board, so got those points. So that was really about it. I mean, that's what did the bulk of my work for me. Maybe, maybe instead of going after him, I should have just sat back and just kept shooting. I didn't think it was going to be quite as effective as it was. So what did we learn today? Obviously, I used much more colorful language in real life, but I I kept cursing out the trolls during our game. And it was funny, I didn't talk about it, but my trolls actually failed a Leadership 9 rerollable stupidity check earlier in the game as well. It just didn't affect things because my spider was in front of them, so they didn't move up at all. So that when they failed that last time, giving up their flank, that was actually the second time that I failed a Leadership 9 reroll with them. And yeah, this experience has traumatized me concerning trolls. I've always liked trolls. I think they're a really good unit. They're pretty scary. There aren't a lot of things that can deal with them well. My only complaint that I had with them for the longest time was they're not a scoring unit. But now after this game, like I said, I'm just traumatized. Like, these guys literally cost me the game. You know, obviously I have some part to blame in it. Like, I should have reformed them. You know, I made some mistakes, but all in all, I played, I think, a pretty good game. I set myself up in the best position I could to win and win big. And yeah, my guys just failed a bunch of easy charges, and then my trolls failing stupidity the way they did, that was the nail in the coffin. And now I'm really thinking maybe instead of trolls, especially at 4,500 points, going back down, maybe I should return to Iron Orcs at some point in the future and use those guys instead. I don't know. I'm still debating it. I'll do like a recap at the end of how I think things went in the tournament, and I'm going to go back to this game for sure to talk about some stuff. It was really interesting. So the dice giveth and they taketh away. Obviously, it's a dice game. Things are going to be swingy. And what I said came true for once bitten. I mean, I kept trying to cheer him up and say, hey, like, you know, you're due for some luck to come your way. And it did, at my expense, unfortunately, but it did. You know, he really actually didn't have good dice rolls at the beginning of this game. But when they came at the most opportune time. And my dice turned on me real quick. But again, you know, there are things that you can do to mitigate dice rolls, but they're always going to have some factor in the game. Obviously, for me, like just reforming with the trolls, they would have failed stupidity, but at least they would have been in the front. I think they would have gone a lot differently. So I'm not blaming dice, but this was just a game that was very swingy where things did not go as expected. And then the last point I'll just talk about is playing the train. This was a very unique board, and I think I played the train to the best of my ability, being able to keep all of his units in front, hiding my characters so that his trebuchets couldn't snipe them, funneling his questing knights basically and trapping him with that impassable in the middle. I think I played that about as well as I could. And I have to say that even though a lot of people didn't like that board and some of the other boards at the tournament, I think that playing with unique boards like that, it's a challenge, and you can have opportunities to do well with it. It creates some interesting strategies. A lot of times, I feel just the train doesn't matter. You get into games and it's, you know, very cookie cutter and very balanced. Like, oh, you get a woods, I get a woods, you get a hill, and it's just too symmetrical. So you know, it's hard to take really good advantage or make the game around the terrain. But it really felt like it this game. And Once Bitten played it, I think, pretty well too. You know, putting his peg knights behind that impassable terrain, because if he hadn't done that, I think I would have just shot off that unit. I was rolling everything into those guys, and he was able to give them hard cover. So I did like that part about it. I thought that was very tactical. But other than that, guys, that's all I've got. for this one, One Spin's a great opponent. I really enjoyed playing against him. Uh, if I'm gonna lose like this, I'd rather lose to him. He's a classy guy to lose to, and it was a fun game. I'm not gonna say it wasn't a little bitter, but it was a fun game. Very unexpected, very different. If you have any comments, please leave them below. It could be about the battle reports in general or about tactics, lists, anything like that. Feel free to post something and like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. And I'll look forward to putting up the next one for you guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. See ya.